The big news making a splash this week. Delhi government slashes circle rates by 20% to boost capital's real estate market and accelerate the post-pandemic recovery. Today on the Property Show, we decode how beneficial is this move for you, the home buyer and seller. Will it really make Delhi's property cheaper? We will also get an answer to that big question. What's happening with Delhi's land pooling policy, which was meant to bring a huge stock of right-priced homes for middle-income Delhiites? But first, the circle rate reduction and who does it really benefit? My guest, Sunil Tyagi, Senior Partner and Co-founder of Zeus Law, R.S. Ahuja, Chartered Accountant and founder of R.S. Ahuja and Company, Shubhankar Dongre, co-founder of Propstack. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Sunil, first up, whole lot of excitement on the cut in circle rates. Can you break down the impact on this for us? Because, everyone believes that Delhi real estate is going to get cheaper. That's not entirely the case, isn't it?
Yes, Manisha. So the first feel when you read this, that the circle rate has been reduced, the first impression that everybody gets is that yes, the stamp duty rate indirectly is getting reduced. So from 5%, let's say 20% circle rate is reduced. That means my stamp duty rate has effectively come down to 4%. But that's not the case. The stamp duty is payable on a consideration or circle rate, whichever is higher. And generally in properties, there are three kinds of transaction. One, where sale consideration is little higher than or more higher than the circle rate. Second category is where the circle rate and the sale consideration mentioned in the sale deed are same. And then there is a third category where the circle rate is higher, but the actual sale consideration is lesser. So when we reduce the circle rate, the impact on first transaction, let's say the circle rate is 100 rupees, but my sale price is 120. So when the government reduces the circle rate, it is reducing the 100, but my stamp duty rate has not gone down. So there is no benefit which I get in first category where the sale consideration is higher than the circle rate. Second category where the circle rate and sale consideration are equal. If you reduce the circle rate, the sale consideration still remains the same. The circle rate may have come down from 100 to 180. There's no benefit which is available in the benefit of stamp duty to the buyer. Third category where the circle rate was higher than the sale consideration. So the buyer had to pay higher stamp duty, and as well as there was tax implication under the income tax on the buyer as well as the seller. So seller was paying the capital gain tax and the buyer was paying income, additional income under the income from other sources. When the government reduces the circle rate, this category where the circle rate was higher than the sale consideration, they get benefit of the stamp duty as well as income tax.
Right.
So this is the only category which gets the benefit out of the whole lot.
All right. Okay. So I think it's really important to bring in that chart of what are the different categories. There's category A, where if you look at the current rates per square meter in Delhi, it's 7.74 lakh. Proposed rates, of course, are lower. Then there's category B, which is actually much lower. If I look at the difference between B and A category, and that bar will show you how big that difference is, 2.46 lakh per square meter is the rate of category B real estate. Go down further and you see how large that difference becomes. I'm going to ask Mr. Ahuja. Mr. Ahuja, this is really a big benefit for category A properties, isn't it? The ones in Maharani Bagh, New Friends Colony, Jor Bagh, which was stuck because the market reality there was that the prices had fallen or stagnated over last 4 to 5 years, but the circle rates had not been calibrated again.
Yeah, Manisha, thanks for asking me the question. The problem here is, there is no uniform solution to this. At the moment, Jor Bagh is selling way beyond the A category price list. While even with this queuing of, so, in Jor Bagh, it will make no difference. So like more or less, Jor Bagh is selling at more than 10 lakhs per square meter. So it will not, this property reduction of stamp duty rates, the circle rates will not make a difference to the property transaction there.
So where will it make the difference, sir? Mr. Ahuja, which markets will it make a difference?
It will make a difference in, say, Maharani Bagh and New Friends Colony, etc. But there, surprisingly, the difference in the actual price vis-a-vis the circle rate is way beyond 20%. So even still, this will come in the third category as mentioned by my other speaker friend. So here again, the properties are actually being sold for lesser than the stamp duty rate. And we're having serious issues with the income tax department also. So to an extent, this has addressed the issue, but it's not set it at naught. You know, so
What
it
would
needs...
be a, what would be a perfect solution, Mr. Ahuja? You're saying that, look, properties in an area like Jorbagh are even higher than the average we've taken in category A, which is 7.74 lakh per meter. And of course, I'm not taking the construction fee here. Do you think that we should subdivide the category A into many other boxes, maybe A plus and A minus, to have a more realistic circle rate which is very close to the market price?
Absolutely. I think more rationalization needs to be done. At the moment, the difference between A and B, so A is about 3.2 times what is B.
Absolutely.
So, you know, there is a very, very marked difference. So there has to be a minus or A1 and A2 between A. And I think the market and I think the government has to see this closely.
All right.
Because all these issues must be clubbed together and addressed together, like the Income Tax Act and the stamp duty and all the issues that concern the real estate market should be taken up by a regulator and addressed there, instead of this piecemeal jhatka kind of a solution, you know, because this may start a move in the property market, but whether it will become a movement is a big question.
Okay, fair enough. So you're saying, all right, there will be some sellers who will probably now be inspired to sell, and buyers also, where at least the difference between the market rate and the circle rate is narrowed, but there still is a lot of discrepancy. Shubhankar, this entire thing has got translated into, you know, so what if the Delhi government has not cut the stamp duty rates? Just bringing the circle rate down has also benefited buyers by reducing automatically the stamp duty by 1%. I think that's a very narrow population which is going to benefit, isn't it? You need to really take the horn by its bull by its horn and get many other discrepancies rectified to get the Delhi real estate market going.
No, Manisha, that's absolutely right. I mean, the Delhi real estate, the residential market especially, is quite complex. It has been getting more and more complicated over time because of you know, multiple forces at play, and definitely, you know, circle rate has played its part, especially in category A locations where the circle rate is phenomenally higher than what the market rates are, and you know, people are not budging to transact, especially in these locations, because you know, it's a big disadvantage in terms of you know, the income tax liability that comes onto them as income from other sources, as well as from a seller's perspective, which is the you know, added capital gains tax that needs to be paid. So I think, you know, so definitely when circle rates come down, I think the bigger beneficiaries are category A type locations. But I think from an overarching perspective, probably something what the Maharashtra government did last year, which was, you know, bring down stamp duty across the board from 5% to 2% till the end of 2020 calendar year, and then increased it by just 1% till the end of the financial year. And that really, you know, there was a massive cause and effect showing in the sales recorded, because Maharashtra recorded, you know, record sales in December. Mumbai itself sold, you know, over 34,000 crores worth of stuck inventory in December. And, you know, the trend has continued, albeit lesser than the record year, but 24,000, 25,000 crores worth of inventory is gone flying off the shelf in January. So I think there needs to be an across the board solution. I think piecemeal solutions like, you know, just bringing down circle rates, which affect very limited categories, very limited locations, like you said, a very small segment of the buyer
Isn't the answer.
Isn't
the answer. I would agree. I mean, I'm looking at some data by Prop Equity, and they say that Delhi Q4 transactions are actually down 32%. And Mumbai, Shubhankar, you just mentioned, Mumbai is actually up 130%, and January figures have been given by you. Mr. Ahuja, very quickly, what is the income tax implication still? If you're saying that even in areas, in Jorbagh sort of areas, if the reality is still far away from circle rates, then what is the big income tax burden on the buyer and the seller? Very quickly, if you can explain that to us.
So, you see, let me give you an example in a case which we are handling. In New Friends Colony, a property is sold for 9 crores, 9 crores 50 lakhs to be exact. That was the actual price which the seller got. And the circle rate price was 19 crore 50 lakhs.
Okay.
That much is the difference. So we are now fighting because there are no.
Can you say that figure again? Circle
19
rate?
and a half crores. 19 and a half crores is the circle rate.
Wow. And
9.5 crores is the actual price.
And so the buyer and the seller have to both pay tax on that 9 crore difference, on that 10 crore difference, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Good Lord.
And we are litigating for it. So, I mean, and there are no transaction, there is no single transaction in that area which would come to a price even, let's say beyond 11 or 12 crores for that same size of the property in the whole area. 11, 12 crores, 1 or 2 crore variation can be there because of location, because of a park facing, side open, blah, blah, blah.
So what we are saying, Sunil, is, got it, sir. Sunil, what we are saying is that, yes, maybe even in category A real estate, maybe the discrepancy has been reduced in some of the markets, but not in all. So this entire statement that properties got cheaper in overall Delhi is not correct. In some markets, yes, it's become closer to what market reality is. Very quickly, this is also an area where there's very limited supply, and there are families which are holding ancestral property, and the idea is that they are not being able to sell because of this difference. Do you think some of that stock at least is now likely to come into the market?
So definitely, Manisha, as we discussed the 3 categories, the last category, third category, where the circle rate was higher than the sale consideration price, those will definitely be taking advantage of this window which has been opened by the government, and they will definitely, many more transactions. The transactions which were held on the properties which they were not able to dispose of will definitely see a surge in this category, but may not wait for the other categories because there's no benefit available to the other 2 category at all. For them, the sale date today or after 6 months will not make a difference. But definitely in this category, there'll be a huge difference. I think the government should have dealt with 2 issues separately. Stamp duty is separate, circle rate is separate. For categories, I mean, this is only for a certain period.
So you're saying that a larger stamp duty reduction was the need of the hour, like Mumbai market, and like we've already said, Delhi has actually seen a reduction on transactions of 32%. Shubhankar, there are no builder apartments coming up in Delhi at all, right? Very few and far in between, like a Godrej or a DLF, extremely high priced. There isn't enough land at all. Do you believe that there is a big lack of right priced homes for middle income groups and families in Delhi?
Oh, definitely, Manisha. And, especially because, like you said, there has not been too much land unlocked in Delhi over the past, several years, which has definitely created a, supply problem in Delhi. And there are certain locations then, for the right reasons, for the lack of supply, that have seen prices surge, while we've discussed that, for other reasons, especially circle rate related reasons, places like, category A locations have seen prices drop or stagnate over the past few years. But the other problem, Manisha, I think is that, from a transacting perspective and a supply creation perspective, I think 6 months as a window is too small, because you're talking about transactions over here, about people selling land and creating availability to construct new builder properties. And I think, these things take time. 6 months is not going to be an answer or a sufficient amount of time. So I think apart from, measures like this, there has to be an overall sort of plan put in place where even, there needs to be more time given for things to really open up and unclog.
Shubhankar, you've really snatched the words out of my mouth, because I was just going to come to this point. What is 6 months? By the transaction of an existing ancestral property or old home on which you will build multiple apartments and create some inventory in Delhi does not happen in 6 months. So that rationale actually completely confounds me. But Mr. Ahuja and Shubhankar Dongre, thank you very much for joining me. As Shubhankar pointed out, that this move will definitely add new stock to Delhi's real estate, but there are not enough right-priced homes in Delhi at all. This is the job which land pooling policy was supposed to do. That's moving at a snail pace. When we come back, Ramesh Menon of Certes Realty joins us to tell us what's happening on the land pooling policy. Where is it stuck? We are evaluating the impact of the circle rate reduction of 20% on Delhi's real estate market. And in the discussion before the break, we've said, yes, there's an impact, a positive for properties in prime locations of the capital, but it's simply not enough. We need to club it with a stamp duty cut of at least 2 to 3% to benefit all home buyers and start claiming that Delhi real estate has become cheaper. This move also will not do the job of bringing right-priced home inventory to the market, which was actually what Delhi's land pooling policy was meant to do, announced in 2015, approved by Urban Development Ministry, and is still crawling at a snail pace. What really happened with that? Ramesh Menon of Certes Realty joins us now. Ramesh, where are we stuck on Delhi's land pooling policy? I mean, this circle rate reduction is affecting such a tiny sliver of real estate in Delhi.
Yes, you are right. This is just a small baby step. Said that, just to trace where Delhi Master Plan 2021 started, it was supposed to end this year. We haven't yet started on the land pooling. So the problems are the same as it were in 2007, and the government or successive governments have not done anything to address the moot problem of multiplicity of agencies. DDA, as it may be, is the most lethargic organization, and they get a way to, not discharge their function by saying revenue departments report to the Delhi government, MCD doesn't report to DDA, etc., etc.
Ramesh, but in September, DDA actually went on record to say that 6,500 plus hectares of land has been pooled. What happened to that? Has it been pooled or not pooled? And then where are we stuck procedurally?
It has been pooled rather much more than there was the whole the way DDA went about the pooling itself was wrong. You don't open the window for a few months only. You have to keep it open, encourage people to come in and join. You see, it is not just a democratic process of how to appease the landowner. What DDA has to do is to encourage investments to flow in. See, landowner, be it a farmer who's inherited or an investor who's bought it, both can only benefit when they are able to monetize it.
Absolutely.
So, the DDA has yet not verified the lands that have been pooled so far. They have to cross-check with the revenue department on the exact holding, etc. See, when people punched in their data,
whether it's clear title or not. I mean, you can have a number of 6,500 hectares, but whether it has clear title, even that hasn't been checked, are you saying?
Yes.
Wow.
You're right. And the second aspect is, the land holding is fragmented. Each acre of land can have multiple owners because, grandfather to four sons to 16 sons, probably 1 acre of land has 16 owners, and only 1/3 of them have actually given their consent to pool. What happens to the others? Now, these are moot questions that need to be answered by the way of a policy framework.
Wow. So just very quickly for our viewers, after this 6,575 hectares is cleared in title, then 40% of this is going to be pool land for civic infrastructure, which DDA should develop. 53% will be for residential, which is why we are saying that this land needs to come into development to get right-priced homes, and 7% will be for commercial and public facilities. Sunil, I mean, I have only seen frauds happening around land pooling, developers coming and giving out ads and people getting stuck in it. This, according to me, if it's been stuck since 2007 and we are in 2021, should we just give up on the idea? that yet like another master plan is never going to see the light of the day?
More than a decade, the policy is still on paper. There's no actual groundwork which has happened on the land itself yet. So as Ramesh mentioned, the land has been pooled, but there's no timeline or the transparency in the entire policy system where the government defines the timeline within which they will verify the title, within which they will approve the plans, within which they will allocate the land back to you, and when can the construction happen. Unless we know that have a transparency and understand the whole process, it can't move. We are in total dark today. When will this policy will actually start happening? When will the government allocate the land? Everything is still not clear to anyone. So unless we bring the transparency and also the timelines and accountability, policy will never work.
Never take off. Okay, very quickly, Ramesh, whose responsibility is it? For the longest time, it was the center and the state tossing, responsibility into each other's court like a ball.
No, so it's not whose responsibility. The nodal agency for all
this,
this,
DDA's
all the
responsibility.
Of Delhi is DDA.
Okay.
So they can find ruse or an excuse for not doing their job. The buck solely stops at DDA.
All right. I think on that we'll have to wrap out of this discussion. Sunil Tyagi and Ramesh Menon. We'll have a longer one if we see the needle move on land pooling policy. Until then, we'll be only discussing expensive micro markets of Delhi and saying, all right, so circle rates have helped Maharani Bagh and New Friends Colony, but whether there's enough housing stock for middle class Delhiites to buy a good home, not at all right now. Thank you so much for joining me. All that we can say is that DDA has to move faster on the Delhi land pooling policy. Till I see you next week, it's a goodbye from me and thanks so much for watching.